The Silence Protocol. The crystalline dome of the Galactic Unity Summit stretched across the horizon, its translucent walls shimmering with the light of 3 distant suns. Inside, representatives from 147 civilizations gathered in concentric circles, their forms as diverse as the stars themselves. Some floated in specialized atmospheric chambers, others existed as pure energy, and many took shapes that defied conventional biology. Lieutenant Marcus Chen stood at humanity's designated platform, feeling remarkably small. Earth had joined the Galactic Federation only 50 years ago, making humans the youngest members of this ancient assembly. His uniform, a simple navy blue with minimal decoration, stood in stark contrast to the elaborate ceremonial garments and biomechanical augmentations of the other delegates. The Treaty of Harmonious Communication governed every word spoken in this chamber. For 12,000 years, this protocol had maintained peace among species whose very thoughts could be weapons. Each race had surrendered their most dangerous linguistic constructs, locking them away in the vault of forbidden utterances. The treaty was absolute, unbreakable, sacred. Ambassador Krulvor of the hegemony dominated the central speaking platform. His species resembled massive crystalline spiders, their bodies refracting light into hypnotic patterns. The hegemony had grown increasingly aggressive over the past century, using loopholes in the treaty to expand their influence through economic coercion and veiled threats. The outer colonies of Sector 7 require immediate integration into hegemony protection protocols. Krulvor's translated voice boomed through the chamber. Their primitive defensive systems cannot withstand the cosmic storms approaching their region. Marcus watched as several smaller civilizations shifted uncomfortably. The Zephyrians, beings of living gas, swirled in agitation. The Tyrellian hive mind's ambassador units clicked their mandibles nervously. Everyone knew protection was the hegemony's euphemism for subjugation. Elder Thon of the Ancient Ones, a being whose age predated most star systems, responded with measured words. The treaty provides for voluntary protection agreements only. The colonies of Sector 7 have not requested hegemony assistance. Their silence is consent, Krulvor countered, his crystalline form pulsing with aggressive light patterns. We move to implement protection protocols within the next solar cycle. Marcus felt his jaw clench. He'd studied the colonies in question. Peaceful worlds populated by various species who'd chosen isolation over Federation politics. The hegemony's protection would strip them of autonomy, turning vibrant cultures into resource farms. The debate continued for hours, following the rigid structure demanded by the treaty. Each species could speak only in approved linguistic patterns, using carefully vetted vocabulary that had been deemed safe for interspecies communication. Metaphors were banned, as were certain tonal frequencies, specific grammatical structures, and any word that could trigger involuntary responses in other beings. Marcus listened to his neural translator parse the complex diplomatic language. Humanity had submitted their entire vocabulary for review upon joining the Federation, surrendering words deemed too dangerous for galactic discourse. But they'd held something back, something even the Federation's most advanced linguistic analysts hadn't detected. The human delegation requests recognition, Marcus announced, his voice steady despite his racing heart. The chamber fell silent. Junior members rarely spoke, especially from species as new as humanity. Krulvor's form shifted, his crystalline segments rearranging in what Marcus recognized as amusement. The child species wishes to contribute. Krulvor's tone dripped with condescension. How? Novel. Marcus stepped forward, feeling the weight of 1,000 alien gazes. Humanity opposes the forced protection of Sector 7 colonies. The treaty is clear. Consent must be explicit, not assumed. Your species has been among the stars for mere moments, Krulvor dismissed. You lack the perspective to understand galactic security needs. We understand freedom, Marcus replied, and we recognize oppression, regardless of what language dresses it in. The hegemony delegation pulsed with angry lights. Several other species murmured, Whether in approval or concern, Marcus couldn't tell. The human delegation is out of order, Krelvor declared. Their emotional response violates Protocol 7 of diplomatic discourse. Elder Thawne intervened. The human speaks within acceptable parameters. His words contain no forbidden constructs. Not yet, Krelvor sneered. But these primitives barely understand the treaty they've signed. How long before they stumble into violation through sheer ignorance? Marcus felt heat rise in his chest. The hegemony had been spreading this narrative since humanity's admission that humans were too young, too emotional, too unpredictable for galactic society. It was a calculated campaign to marginalize Earth's voice in Federation affairs. The vote will proceed, Elder Thawne announced. All in favor of hegemony protection protocols for Sector 7. The Chamber's voting system activated, each delegation's response recorded in real time. The display showed a troubling trend. Smaller civilizations voted with the hegemony out of fear, while larger powers abstained to avoid conflict. The peaceful worlds of Sector 7 were being sacrificed to maintain a fragile status quo. Marcus watched the tally climb. In 30 seconds, the vote would close, and millions of beings would lose their freedom. His mind raced through diplomatic options, finding none within the treaty's constraints. But there was another way. A word his grandfather had whispered to him before his departure, a word that had somehow escaped the Federation's linguistic analysis. "I invoke humanity's right of final statement," Marcus announced. The voting paused. Every delegation had this right, one last chance to speak before a decision became binding. Most species used it for elaborate summations or careful diplomatic pleas. Marcus straightened his shoulders, meeting Krelvor's multifaceted gaze directly. Then he spoke a single word, not in the trade language of the Federation, not in any approved linguistic construct, but in pure, unfiltered human communication. No. The word hit the chamber like a gravitational wave. It wasn't just the meaning. It was the way Marcus said it, channeling every ounce of human defiance, every moment of righteous anger, every instinct to protect the weak from the strong. The word carried frequencies that bypassed universal translators, resonating directly with the consciousness of every being present. The Zephyrian's gaseous forms solidified for a fraction of a second. The Turellian hive mind's units synchronized in perfect stillness. Even the ancient ones seemed to flicker, as if reality itself had hiccuped. But the strongest reaction came from the hegemony. Krelvor's crystalline form began to resonate, his segments vibrating at increasingly discordant frequencies. The other hegemony delegates backed away from their leader, their own structures showing signs of harmonic disruption. Treaty violation. Krelvor's voice cracked and distorted. The human has used a forbidden construct. But Elder Thawne was already consulting the treaty archives, his ancient mind processing data at impossible speeds. Negative. The word exists in no database of forbidden terms. It registers as unprecedented, impossible. Krelvor sputtered, his form still struggling to maintain coherence. All dangerous linguistic constructs were catalogued millennia ago. Apparently not. Elder Thawne mused, studying Marcus with new interest. The humans have contributed something unique to our understanding of communication. The voting display flickered and reset. Around the chamber, delegates began to stir from their momentary paralysis. The smaller civilizations, those who'd moments ago voted out of fear, started changing their positions. The word, that simple, powerful no, had awakened something in them. "I change my vote," announced the Zephyrian delegate, their gaseous forms swirling with new patterns. "We stand against forced protection protocols." "As do we," clicked the Turellian hive mind, their units moving in determined synchronization. One by one, delegations reversed their positions. The tide turned against the hegemony, as species after species found their courage, inspired by humanity's act of defiance. "This is madness." Krelvor's form finally stabilized, but his voice retained an edge of uncertainty. You risk the stability of the entire Federation for these insignificant colonies. We risk nothing, Marcus replied, his voice calm now. We preserve the freedom that the Federation was founded to protect. The final vote tally appeared. Overwhelming rejection of the hegemony's proposal. For the first time in centuries, the expanding power had been stopped in its tracks. You've made an enemy today, human, Krelvor warned, his delegation preparing to leave. The hegemony will remember this insult. It wasn't an insult, Marcus said. It was a reminder. Sometimes the smallest voice carries the most important message. As the hegemony delegation departed, other species approached the human platform. Questions buzzed through the chamber. How had humanity hidden such a linguistic weapon? What other words might they possess? Was this power teachable? Elder Thon glided forward, his ancient eyes studying Marcus intently. That word. It wasn't in any language we recognize. What did you do? Marcus allowed himself a small smile. We didn't hide a word from the treaty. We created one specifically for this moment. My grandfather was a linguist who studied the biological effects of communication across species. He theorized that certain combinations of sound, intention, and emotional resonance could create new forms of meaning. Words that don't just convey information, but actively reshape reality around them. Impossible, breathed the delegate from the academic consortium. Linguistic construction doesn't work that way. Human linguistic construction does, Marcus replied. We're not bound by the same evolutionary paths as other species. Our language evolved not just to communicate, but to inspire, to rally, to change minds and hearts. That word, no, delivered with the full weight of human conviction, became something more than mere denial. It became an awakening. Elder Thon nodded slowly. You've broken the treaty, yet somehow fulfilled its highest purpose. This requires considerable meditation. As the summit adjourned, delegates clustered in excited groups, discussing the implications of humanity's revelation. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted in a single moment, with a single word. Marcus stood alone on the human platform, gazing out at the triple sunset through the crystalline dome. He'd changed history today, but at what cost? The hegemony would not forget this humiliation, and humanity had revealed a capability that would make them either invaluable allies or dangerous enemies in the eyes of the galaxy. His communication device chirped with an incoming message from Earth. Well done, Lieutenant. The word worked exactly as predicted. Prepare for Phase 2. Marcus smiled grimly. Today's victory was just the beginning. Humanity had spent 50 years learning the galaxy's rules, studying its power structures, understanding its weaknesses. Now it was time to teach the galaxy something about human nature, that when pushed too far, when facing injustice, humans didn't just resist. They'd revolutionized. The echo of defiance. The aftermath of Marcus Chen's defiant no rippled through the galaxy like seismic waves through space-time. In the hours following the summit, communication networks buzzed with analysis, speculation, and fear. The hegemony's first defeat in 3 centuries had shattered the illusion of their inevitability. Marcus remained in the diplomatic quarter of the summit station, fielding urgent communications from Earth's leadership and diplomatic corps. Ambassador Sarah Martinez, humanity's senior representative, appeared on his secure hologram link, her expression a mixture of pride and concern. You've certainly stirred the pot, Lieutenant, she said. Every major civilization is demanding explanations. The academic consortium wants full access to our linguistic research. The warrior clans of Drakmor are offering alliance treaties. And the hegemony has declared humanity a threat to galactic stability. Marcus finished. I've seen their broadcasts. It's worse than that. They're calling for our expulsion from the Federation, claiming we've developed illegal weapons disguised as language. Several of their client species are supporting the motion. Marcus had expected this. The hegemony's power relied on fear and the appearance of invincibility. His action had cracked their facade, and they would respond with everything in their arsenal. How many allies do we have? he asked. More than we expected. The Zephyrians have publicly announced a mutual defense pact with Earth. The Torellian hive mind is sharing intelligence about hegemony expansion plans. Even some of the Ancient Ones are expressing interest in our linguistic capabilities. A soft chime announced a visitor. Marcus looked up to see Elder Thon materializing in his quarters. A courtesy, since the Ancient One could have appeared anywhere without warning. Ambassador Martinez, Thon acknowledged. I require private consultation with Lieutenant Chen. Sarah nodded. Of course, Elder. Marcus, be careful. We're in uncharted territory now. The hologram faded, leaving Marcus alone with one of the galaxy's oldest beings. Thon's form shifted subtly, adapting to human visual comfort, a consideration that spoke volumes about his intentions. Your word has done more than defeat a single vote, Thon began. It has awakened something that has slumbered for millennia. The Federation was built on the principle that communication must be controlled, regulated, made safe. Your species has proven this assumption false. We never agreed with that principle, Marcus replied. Communication isn't just about exchanging information safely. It's about connecting souls, changing minds, inspiring action. You can't regulate the human spirit. Indeed. Thon's form flickered with what might have been amusement. The hegemony demands your expulsion. They claim you violated the treaty's fundamental purpose. But others see it different. What do you see, Elder? I see the next phase of galactic evolution. The treaty has kept peace, yes, but at the cost of stagnation. We've become so afraid of the power of words that we've forgotten their purpose. Your species offers something new, not just new words, but new ways of meaning. An urgent alert flashed on Marcus's communication panel. Reports were coming in from Sector 7. The hegemony was mobilizing their fleet, despite the vote. They intended to take by force what they couldn't win through diplomacy. They're moving against the colonies anyway, Marcus said, studying the tactical displays. Of course they are. The hegemony cannot afford to appear weak. They will test whether your words have power beyond the council chamber. Marcus felt the weight of responsibility settling on his shoulders. His action had inspired others, but inspiration alone wouldn't stop a military fleet. Earth's navy is too small to intervene directly, he admitted. We're decades behind their technology. Military force is not your strength, Thon observed, but you've already demonstrated your true weapon. The question is, can you weaponize communication itself? The idea crystallized in Marcus's mind. Humanity's linguistic research had focused on more than just creating impactful words. They'd studied how language shaped reality across different species, how certain frequencies could resonate with alien consciousness, how meaning itself could become a force of change. We need to reach their fleet commanders directly, Marcus said. Not through official channels, but consciousness to consciousness. The hegemony's military uses neural dampeners specifically to prevent such influence. Dampeners designed to block known linguistic patterns, but we're not using known patterns anymore. Over the next 6 hours, Marcus worked with Earth's linguistic team to craft something unprecedented, not just a word or phrase, but a complete linguistic virus. It would carry more than meaning. It would carry human experience itself, the fear of the oppressed, the courage of the righteous, the unbreakable will to protect the innocent. As the hegemony fleet approached Sector 7, representatives from dozens of species gathered in the summit's emergency session. Krelvor appeared via hologram, his crystalline form radiating confidence. The Federation observes as we execute lawful protection protocols, he announced. The human's theatrical display changes nothing. You proceed against the expressed will of the Council, Elder Thon stated. The Council's will was corrupted by illegal influence. We act to preserve galactic order. Marcus stepped forward. You act to preserve your own power, but power built on fear is always fragile. Speak your pretty words, human. Our fleet commanders are protected from your linguistic tricks. Are they? Marcus touched a control on his diplomatic console. We're about to find out. The linguistic virus deployed through quantum communication channels, bypassing traditional filters and defenses. It wasn't aimed at ship systems or weapons. It targeted consciousness itself, seeking the spark of awareness in every hegemony soldier, technician, and commander. The effect was not immediate. For long moments, the fleet continued its approach. Then, gradually, ships began to slow. Communication chatter within the hegemony forces shifted from military efficiency to confused questioning. What am I doing here? These colonies, they've done nothing wrong. Why are we the ones always taking? On the Emergency Council's display, they watched hegemony vessels breaking formation. Some turned back toward their home space. Others simply stopped, hanging motionless in the void. A few approached the colonies they'd come to conquer, broadcasting offers of humanitarian aid instead. Krelvor's holographic form flickered with rage. Treachery. Mind control. This is an act of war. No, Marcus said quietly. It's an act of awakening. We didn't control their minds. We freed them. For the first time, your soldiers are thinking for themselves, seeing their actions through eyes unclouded by propaganda and conditioning. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Some species recoiled in fear at humanity's demonstration of power. Others pressed forward with questions, desperate to understand. The warrior clans pounded their approval. The academic consortium practically vibrated with excitement. You've changed everything, Elder Thon said, his ancient voice carrying over the chaos. The treaty is broken, not by violation but by transcendence. We need new accords, new understanding. In the days that followed, the galaxy restructured itself around this new reality. The hegemony, faced with massive defections and internal questioning, retreated to their core systems. Some of their former client species declared independence. Others sought alliance with Earth and its growing coalition. Humanity's linguistic research centers became pilgrimage sites for scholars and diplomats. The ability to craft words that could reshape consciousness, inspire courage, or shatter tyranny was a power unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Marcus found himself at the center of these changes, no longer a junior diplomat, but a symbol of humanity's unique gift. He worked with alien linguists to establish new protocols, not to restrict communication, but to explore its full potential safely. We offer not weapons but tools, he explained to a gathering of species considering joining Earth's alliance. Words that heal trauma, phrases that bridge impossible cultural gaps, languages that can express concepts your species have never imagined. But always with consent, always with respect for consciousness. The Zephyrians contributed their understanding of gaseous communication. The Tyrellian hive mind shared their techniques for collective linguistic processing. Even some ancient ones revealed long-hidden knowledge about the fundamental nature of meaning itself. A year after the summit incident, Marcus stood before a transformed Galactic Council. The rigid hierarchies had given way to fluid cooperation. The Treaty of Harmonious Communication had been replaced by the Accords of Conscious Expression, guidelines that celebrated linguistic diversity while establishing ethical frameworks for reality-shaping communication. The hegemony called us primitives. Marcus addressed the assembly. They said we were too young, too emotional, too unpredictable. They were right about one thing. We are unpredictable. Because humans don't just adapt to the universe. We inspire it to become something greater. Krelvor's replacement, a younger crystalline being named Shalthis, spoke from the hegemony's designated platform. We acknowledge humanity's contribution to galactic evolution. Our species has begun its own journey of linguistic discovery, seeking to understand how we became so trapped by our own rigid communications. It wasn't a perfect galaxy. Tensions remained, and some species still feared humanity's gift. But the age of stagnation had ended. Words flowed freely between worlds, carrying not just information but transformation. Marcus received a final message from his grandfather, the linguist whose theories had started it all. Remember, the most powerful word in any language isn't a command or a plea. It's the one that opens a door to understanding. You didn't break the treaty, Marcus. You spoke the word that let the galaxy finally hear itself. As triple suns set over the diplomatic quarter, Marcus contemplated the future. Humanity had given the galaxy a gift, the realization that communication wasn't about control but connection, not about safety but growth. And in return, the galaxy was teaching humanity something equally valuable, that even the smallest voice, speaking truth at the right moment, could reshape the destiny of trillions. The word that broke the treaty hadn't been no. It had been something far more powerful, an invitation to become more than they were. And the galaxy, after 12,000 years of silence, had finally answered yes. In the depths of space, on worlds across the galaxy, beings of every form began to speak in new ways, not just exchanging data or following protocols, but sharing dreams, fears, hopes, and the ineffable experience of consciousness itself. The age of true communication had begun, and with it, the next chapter in galactic civilization, one written not in the language of power, but in the vocabulary of possibility. Humanity had broken an ancient treaty with a single word, but in doing so, they had forged a new covenant with the stars themselves, a promise that language would no longer be a cage, but wings upon which all consciousness could soar.